Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Net Zero Energy Buildings Knowledge Series. It's always great to have you all tune in, but especially more so in these challenging times amidst COVID 19. I hope you're all keeping healthy and safe. There are many of you who've been attending the webinar series regularly, but for those who are tuning in for the first time, let me start by talking about what the series is all about. The Net Zero Energy Building Knowledge Series is a platform for the industry to share expertise and showcase projects, technology, products, and ideas that fuel discussion on building energy efficiency and grow the engagement on NZEBs. This initiative is supported by METRI program, which is funded by USAID. METRI is an acronym for Market Integration and Transformation for Energy Efficiency. You can read more about this on our website, metri.edsglobal.com. I'm Prachi and I'm joining in from Mumbai. I'll be moderating today's exciting session. Today's session is Lighting Beyond Illumination. We look at innovative lighting technologies and controls that are transforming the built environment. Lights are everywhere, and that's why they offer exciting possibilities for data-driven insights, whether it's street lights that monitor greenhouse gas emissions, ceiling lights that can be used for indoor navigation systems, and more. We are entering the age of connected digital lighting systems, and it's exciting to see their applications across homes, offices, and cities. Joining us today is industry veteran Mr. Ashish Behel. He's joining us from Gurgaon. Ashish Behel leads the architect program in experience design at Signify, which was previously Philips Lighting. He has over 18 years of qualitative experience, construction management in interiors, buildings, real estate, industry, and the development sectors. He's worked in many high-profile lighting projects with Signify and Philips, and is also a permanent faculty at the Philips Lighting Academy. So we'll begin with a presentation by Mr. Behel, followed by a Q&A session. So I encourage you all to send us your questions in over chat. So without further ado, let's begin today's session. Over to you, Mr. Behel.
Right. Thank you so much, Prachi and Deepa and the EDS team and the Mathri team. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. And thank you so much for hosting me today. I'll be talking about, as you can see, lighting beyond illumination, where we will talk about, there's a lot of potential lighting has in our day-to-day lives, and we will try and unearth and expose and make you aware of a lot of possibilities that light has as on date. Okay, so just to begin, I'll also introduce my organization. Like Prachi already mentioned, Philips Lighting is now renamed as Signify. The basic reason of the renaming was also the fact that we wanted to move from just a product brand to an Internet of Things and lighting brand. As you can see, we obviously lead the pack when it comes to lighting across the world, also lead it in innovation, also lead it in sustainability for that matter, and also, as you can see, present in a numerous number of countries across the world. We deal with, as it says, light sources, luminaires, systems, and services. Now, these are some new terms that you might see often when it comes to lighting. Still, let's go forward. The first known source of light was fire. You see, I mean, it was also the source of heat, of course, but then we moved on from fire to some, any which way let's say late 1800s, we moved on to electric light, and ever since we were using that, the progress or the change that was happening in the technology was pretty slow. But as you see, since this new technology of LEDs has started coming in, the transformation has been phenomenal. In the last 4 or 5 years, the way we have converted our usage to LEDs is like no other. Okay, no other adaptation has happened in technology of lighting so far. Okay, that's fast, how fast it has been. Well, with this change, with the change of technology, what is also happening is LED is also a digital source of light, and which is very different from what has been the conventional. While uh, it can talk to a lot of other things like computers, phones, of course human beings and other electrical systems, it can become a centerpiece of a lot of interesting possibilities that we are about to see. So it's like a world of opportunities which we call beyond illumination, and here we go in that journey. Okay, also good to know some changes that are happening around us, right? So one, uh, we know that already that there's a huge growth in population, and the way we are urbanizing ourselves, a lot of people are flocking the cities. We need more light. Uh, Also, there is also the other part of the world where there is a dearth of resources, right? Where we need more energy efficiency, which any which way is required in urban situations as well. But still, wherever there's a dearth of resources, we need to be more miserly in our usage and miserly in our consumption, for that matter. And thirdly, the way forward is where is digitization, the connectivity. So, and I'll, again, I don't want to really let the cat out of the bag right away. I just wanted to give a heads up that this is how the world of lighting is changing, and what all do we have to address while making our solutions, right? Uh, and this is an interesting slide, if you can see it on your screen. How, and I was talking about it earlier, how conventional, ever since 1890, since the incandescent started happening, to 2008, which is about almost 90 odd years, or maybe more, 100 years plus, sorry. And when LED started, look at the kind of changes it is happening, right? We moved from LEDs to working on LED systems. So it's like more than one luminaire and how they talk to each other. Now, whatever lives longer, like an LED, or like your air conditioning, needs servicing. So services is another branch of how lighting works these days. Going forward, and lighting for IoT is the next change which has started happening. Internet of Things. So communication, how you can communicate to your light. Earlier, it used to be just a switch, and that's all you could do with the light. Now, multiple channels of communication and personalization has started happening. And the fifth change which is you can see on the screen, is light as a language, which you could have never imagined. So that's the kind of changes or transitions that are happening in the industry of lighting. However, let's go one by one. I don't want to really uh, really scare you away in what we're going to talk about. Also, in terms of businesses, as you can see, this is one of the charts that I wanted to show from even Philips' own business numbers. So in 2012, just 7-8 years back, the LED was about 22% of our offerings. Now it's the other way around. It's like a total, inverse relationship to how much LED is being sold today. Kind of transformation that would have happened. Also, if you talk about connected light points, back then in 7-8 years back, we had just 80,000 connected light points. Now we have 56 million. 56 million is about 5.6 crores. That's the kind of number of light points which are connected. Okay, it's like your mobile, it's like your computer, it's like so these are all connected devices like other objects, and um, lighting is part of that. So 5.6 million, oh sorry, 5.6 crores of light points are connected across the world. Here I would also like to mention that while we moved ourselves from being called Philips to Signify, we also introduced a platform, an IoT platform called Interact, and that is how these lamps or drivers or luminaires or sensors could talk to each other. You needed a language, right? So there is this cloud or a platform which, of course, takes into account each kind of application, whether it is a city, whether it's a building, whether it's an office, and so on and so forth. You still need a language, you still need a platform to conversate, to communicate to each other. So that's where we invested in and have created this platform. So most of the solution which are more IoT based are based on the Interact platform. It may vary from organization to organization, but the idea remains that while the technology is digital, it needs to communicate, and there is a lot of possibility communication brings. There are a lot of companies which have come out of communications alone, right? So a Facebook or a Google is purely a communication company, right? So that's the kind of change or a huge transformation that has brought in to the way we do our businesses today, right? So lighting is another very interesting sort of infrastructure. When it gets connected, brings immense possibilities, and that's where we've, as an organization, invested in the future. uh, What does it bring? What does connected lighting brings? It brings connected luminaires to begin with. Of course, that's the basic infrastructure. But what it also does is connects spaces. When the spaces are connected, you can take a lot of spaces based decisions which are important for that space, important for usage of the space, importance for energy conservation, importance for many other activities that you would like to do, because spaces are expensive, spaces are thronged, spaces are you pay for these spaces, for example. uh, and thirdly, and most importantly, we talk about connected people. Now that doesn't mean that we were not connected before, but it sort of connects us to the spaces, right? I can transform my space to my need, which was never possible before, right? So luminaire spaces people is how this connected lighting paraphernalia starts the revolution. Okay, and there are various values that come out of it, and we will talk about it as it goes ahead. So light can give, and there are a lot of pop-ups on your screen. It can give, of course, brightness, entertainment, inspiration, sustainability, food. Who would have ever thought? I mean, so food, of course, everybody knows from our 8th class biology class on photosynthesis, but what else? There are a lot more that is in the offering. Of course, it gives you attraction. A better lit building is more attractive than a lesser lit building, for example. Health, of course, lack of good lighting deters your health, for example. Energy efficiency, well-being, direction. Who would have thought navigation is possible today? Interactivity, recognition, right? Choice. So a lot of these value propositions beyond just lighting has started, popping up like it's on your screen, you know, going forward as the technology and our sensitivity towards using light has started changing. Okay. uh, and lighting is everywhere. You can see, any space that we dwell in, whether it's indoor, whether it's outdoor, whether it's a park, whether it's a shopping mall, whether it's a stadium, whether it's a tunnel, whether it's any space that we have human habitation, there will always be a dark time which we need to be lit, right? So I we come from Delhi, and Delhi has been become the really an unsafe place for women, for example. And one of the reasons is this lack of lighting at good places. So anyway, my point is, you need light to live these days, and of course after daylight, which is of course the prime source of our life, you do still need artificial light, and to keep us safe and sound, and also healthy for that matter. So it's everywhere. Therefore we will just, so what you see on the screen now, uh, I have divided my showcase in these three parts. We'll talk about professional lighting, which is more B2B, where we do our projects, these kind of stuff, and then we'll go to consumer lighting and some innovative lighting. So we'll also look up some very interesting cases as you go ahead. uh, okay, so let's begin with professional lighting. The kind of value proposition that you see on your screen now, scene management to personalization to traffic analysis to navigation, space management, social participation, crowd management. These are some things lighting would have never, probably 10 years back would have never even known these words when lighting would have come to your mind. Data mining, environmental monitoring, so bioadaptive lighting. So these are terms which have become handy, and this is how we will use our lighting henceforth, and that's the story. That's where we say, okay, it's just not a light source, it is also a magic wand in your hand, which if used in your favor can give you so many advantages that you could have not imagined. And still we are still at the tip of the iceberg. We just started exploring. We are in a formative years of using digital lighting, and that's what we've got so far. And we are still people who, you're not even millennials. The new generation might just bring a huge revolution going forward. Okay, so we'll just run from space, kind of one type of space to the other, so bear with me. Okay, to begin with, we call it the interact city. Today what we see is the city has these lighting which are, of course, most of it had now thankfully converted to LED, so there's a bit of energy efficiency that is brought in, but still there's no control over what these lights do, right? They are mostly switched on during the day. They conk off in the night because of some reason or the other. We have no control. I'm not saying everyone, maybe, oh, generally I'm talking, this is how the situation is. We have no control over what's happening in our city, right? Therefore this proposition of having a city lighting management system where you have the possibility to control each and every light point sitting at a central control room, right? So this is so more than systems in 50, I mean, as the numbers pretty steep for that matter, 1900 systems have been used in 58 countries, and this is so far what we've been able to do in the last 6-7 years, including India. I must also mention that we've done some phenomenal work in Pune, Raipur, Nagpur, and some cities which are implementing the smart city system, where each light point in the city we are able to map, if something goes wrong, and we are able to, not we are able to, the entire system. It's not that the organization in charge is supposed to do that. The city management team, for that matter, the mayor, the local development authorities, the contractors, because this is like e-governance. When a certain street light goes, it conks off, if in a normal day, normal times, without this kind of system, by the time you notice something's wrong, it might already be 7 days done. After that, some mishap might happen. So after that, the government might give a tender or some order to some contractor to do something needful. It'll probably take a month to quickly replace something. However, in this case, you can easily monitor, you can change scenes, you can say, okay, if it's morning, please switch off. There are sensors to help you do that. On a rainy day, you can switch on the lights, let's say at 2 p.m., for example. So this is all possible now, sitting at one place. And you might ask, how is all that magic possible? And you can't have a Wi-Fi system across the city. It's impossible to do that at this scale. Interestingly, all luminaires have a SIM card inside. They're like mini mobile phones, and all you have to do is control them from a single, let's say, smart system, for that matter. So these are some new possibilities. Again, like I'm saying, we are still at the tip of the iceberg. A lot more is possible. You might want to bundle environmental monitoring on the same pole by putting a light, and that information also gets fed into that SIM card, and you can monitor your CO2 levels, the SO2 levels. So any such data points can be collected from individual, or maybe in a collection at some smart pole, for that matter. You can, of course, have a lighting asset management. Something goes wrong, you know what to do, where to send, and which part of it is faulty, for that matter. Energy optimization, because you're scheduling it, you are you're saying, okay, let's start at 30% light level at 6 p.m. in the evening, at 8 p.m. go 100%, at let's say 4 or let's say about 1 a.m. dim data 30%, and then conk off at 6 a.m. for that matter. So you are able to manage a lot of energy consumption which otherwise goes unchecked, for that matter. Incident detection, so you can, for example, light can help you detect if something's wrong or some kind of. So while you do still have Google Maps to help you on a lot of these points, but when you have a light point every 30 odd meters, I think a lot of specific data can be collected by these light points, and that's the change that Internet of Things at a city level brings you, right? And of course, a lot of benefit from energy saving, a lot of CO2 emission saving. And you're much more intelligent people, you can probably find more usages to such an infrastructure. We're just starting to build up that system, and some successes so far, right? So as it says, it's like you're one of those central control rooms where you can actually monitor, manage your entire city system. And something start blinking, something's wrong there, you zoom in, you sort of check out what's happening there, you can make some readings, and then respond likewise. So there's a bit of human intervention that can also be required, but there can also something you can automate it. So sometimes the city manager gets a text saying particular street, particular thing is wrong, so you don't have to really be 24 hours sitting on the system. You might just get a WhatsApp or a normal message or a mail, for that matter. So these are some possibilities that have started emerging so far at a city level, which was not the case earlier. Okay, going forward, now this is another very interesting one where and you've started seeing this trend that we have started celebrating our buildings, whether it's a heritage building, whether it's a modern building, or whether there are some streetscapes or bridges, so on and so forth. So that identifying and celebrating these building types have started happening now. So that's what lighting does. Great job. But then what happens is you sometimes need to monitor and manage it, right? You can't really, if something goes wrong in the bridge on the left, which is the San Francisco Bridge, you can't go and look for what went wrong there. Or for that matter, if today the US, it's a US project. So if the US had some great festival, or they won some some kind of a sports match, so you want to change the program, you can't do that. You have to probably, go to the site and do some changes, and then things might happen. However, what has happened is Interact Landmark is actually the platform which is still a cloud-based platform where you can manage. And mind you, most of these projects are being managed from Bangalore, our own Bangalore, where they can actually have a remote operating cell where we can manage a lot of this sitting at a common one place through the cloud, right? So you can, for that matter. So this is another project where London's 15 bridges are being, lit as a public art project. And what does it give you? It obviously, and there are a lot of possibilities of using this as a user interface for people to interact, for that matter. So a lot of citizen engagement starts happening. There are a lot of apps that you can give to people through which they can actually throw content at these public buildings, for that matter, which was not possible. You could not interact. What is there is given, right? You had no control over what is happening around in the city. Right now, because of the democratization of the word through this information technology, you tweet and the PM office also tweets back. This was not happening earlier, right? And that's how the word becomes flatter with technology. However, this brings in more control to people, more engagement to people, brings more people outside in the evening, makes them safer, brings tourism to the city, bring more business to the city, so on and so forth. And of course, when you are able to do that, you're also able to manage energy consumption, uh, change scenes when you like. You can. I wish this was another day where you could run videos, but I can share later. A lot of projects on YouTube where you can see how scenes change. Right, our own. If some of you have seen the Parliament or for that matter, I'll show you the next screen. Our own Rashtrapati Bhavan, and recently the Howrah Bridge, where programs change by the touch of a button or probably from a distant. So these are some projects in India that we've been doing, which are our Interact Landmark, where uh, you can change the content based on occasion, based on people's interaction. Now, people interaction we've not really begun in India, but it's a possibility. It needs a larger scale, in certain part of given to certain amount of people. But although that's a possibility that exists now, right? So this is a very you see the Shanghai Bund on your screen. This is a very interesting project where the whole sort of riverfront or the Bund front buildings are lit in a similar fashion, which sort of brings an urban design together, because all these buildings are lit similarly and they dance together in the sense the light changes happen similarly in all the buildings. Is like urban design by lighting, and it is possible all through that uh, the cloud technology, the Interact Landmark, that you can actually control all of them at one go, and things can happen. You suddenly there's a lot of elevation in your mood, and the city becomes more important and popular. More people throng in, more business happens. So that's the kind of social change it brings. The light is just a small ingredient to the overall flavor, but it can give you that like all the values that I mentioned in terms of. So we know the best lit cities in the world, and we all want to go there and have a look, right? So Interact Landmark, like I already said, is talking about light asset management. So you can monitor, you can manage, you can also, there's a camera app, which means from the app you can actually see what change I did. Is the camera will also capture and tell, yes, the change has happened. So it's like a confirmation. It also tell you how the people are moving around. It gives you a lot of information. Scene management, there are apps available to change scenes almost real time by changing few parameters. And then of course, like I already mentioned, social impact. So you can sort of read the tweets. This app thing can read the tweets and find out what's the mood of the city, and also change the program likewise, for that matter. So a lot of this is now possible, where interactivity between people and your landmarks, your buildings, your bridges, your heritage can happen. And it has already started happening. It's not something that I'm talking in future. It's already happening, for that matter. So that's the possibility that started because of the Internet of Things. Okay, going forward, let's go to our offices now. Offices are almost the place where we all almost, I think most of us working from home must be like itching to go back to our offices, because I think that's where we spend most of our time, right? So it is a very important part of our lives, and we are most productive there, and we do a lot of important stuff there indeed, right? So productivity becomes a very important takeaway while working in office. I think at least including me, most of us are complaining our productivity has gone down while working from home, right? So light is a very important part of the productivity, by the way, right? So here we're talking about Internet of Things and lighting, where similar to what I mentioned earlier, you can look at scene management, you can look at lighting asset management. Of course, energy goes without saying, but energy is still a very small part but the part that it gives to people to customize their light settings, right? Some of us like warmer shades, some of us like cooler shades of light, some of us, so we don't really get that freedom sometimes to customize our workspace, right? All the customization we get to do is put our family or some important pictures and some, small souvenirs that we got, and that's all the customization we get often. However, lighting being on your head, often you get that power to talk to that light and change the dimension that you want to use the lighting for that matter. And if it helps you make being more productive, it can, even it gives you that little boost in terms of your productivity. I think the ROI is already done. The return on investment is very fast, right? Of course, goes without saying, till now lighting was pretty much on and off. You had some, sort of a switch somewhere in the room at the corner with some MCB where you could switch on and switch off the lights at once. For once, even if one person is working in the office, the entire light would be on. That was a sheer waste of energy and very insensitivity towards, our sustainability, that we owe to our sustainability, right? So you do need smarter systems where, let's say, each light point is probably part of a Cat6 network or a wireless network, and there are various possibilities. And I'm just giving you a heads up that a lot of such things are very many green buildings across the world. The greenest buildings on the earth, for that matter, are using such high level, interact office system, like I would call it here, where you are able to optimize your energy usage, you're able to optimize your space usage, and that's something I will talk in the next slide, where and this example on the screen is also for Deloitte, where they were able to actually do that. So lowered the annual cost of space per employee by a huge number, actually 40%, and that'll be amazing, right? So and also imagine indoor navigation. You are in a large floor plate, and I have to go to a certain meeting room called, I'm just saying, Kaveri, for example. I don't know where Kaveri is in. Imagine if lights can tell your phone you are here, like what you do in GPS, and it tells you, okay, go straight, go left, and this is the room that you have to be, for example. So that's the kind of possibility that exists now. This is that example of Deloitte that I was talking about, when they were in another building of with about 1,600 employees. Their cost per employee, including their salary and everything, was, so let's say about 4,000 euros per year. When they moved to this building in November 14, the number of people increased, and because of the better design, they were able to, put more people in a lesser space, right? So cost per employee went up a little, so they had to shell out, let's say, 100 more euros per person. But about 1.5 years later, what happened was the light points could tell that how much percentage of your office space was being used or utilized, actually. So you can get hourly, daily, monthly, weekly data where you can say, okay, my real estate is being used 80%, 75%, 73% today. So on an annualized basis, you can actually take a informed decision on how much space do you actually need, right? So if you have to hire 100 more employees, you don't have to really go for another office. You might just tuck them in the same office, because the usage is such that you are not using your real estate to the maximum. Your real estate is a very expensive, usage these days. You have to shell out a lot of money to do that, right? So they were able to induct, as you can see on the screen, almost 1,000 more people, right, in 1.5 years later, and the cost per employee came down drastically, 40%. That's a huge number, right? So that's the space optimization part. Indoor navigation, you heard me. Productivity, you heard me. Of course, energy consumption definitely remains, right? So there's a lot of possibility. Of course, the basic possibility of using daylight and presence detection, I think that goes without saying. That's obviously thing of the past, that also gets integrated in all of that, right? So this is just for you to see that for energy, if I'm saving, so if I'm spending 18 rupees per square feet per month, it's just a number, but it's also collected from these PMCs. So the spend is 18 rupees per square feet per month on my utilities. Even if I save my energy by 20% on lighting, I might just save 3.6 rupees. But if I'm saving 10% of my space, which is 180 rupees per square feet per month, uh, that's about 18 rupees again. So actually your utilities go for free. But if I'm able to increase the productivity of people by even 1%, by giving them the possibility to change their lighting, they may feel better in terms of, or they may feel healthier. See, most of us in our offices, some of us are feeling colder, some of us are feeling warm in the same air conditioning. I think similar goes with lighting. Some of us think it's too much too bright, some of us think it's too less bright for that matter. If I give that power to people to use, and we can increase the productivity by even by 1% with 1800 rupees per square feet per month, even if I get a return of 18 rupees again. So I think the most important investment is towards people, right? Energy is still a very small component of our ROI, if I may say that, right? So that's the kind of power IoT gives me, that when light points are not uh, part of the electrical system, but part of the IT system actually, and that's the great difference, right? On this point, I would like to also bring upon the point of human-centric lighting, which is primarily um, devoted towards health and well-being, right? Where we talk about tunability, we're talking about, again, that's one possibility I was talking about, which is also possible in those IoT systems, where I can make it warm and cool depending on my usage, depending on time of the day, depending on which room we are sitting in, what kind of need do I have, or any employee will have for that matter. It is not that I'm saying that 1% return is possible or impossible. There is actually a study done by A.T. Kearney, which talks about quantified benefits of human-centric lighting. You might want to take a note of that. It's available online. You can actually read it up. It's an interesting read. Uh, I think I'll quickly jump to Interact Retail, wherein we all of us step out to buy stuff. Uh, you can, for that matter, make it very exciting for people when Internet of Things mixes with retail spaces. Okay, imagine if you were directed in a retail store with your phone in your hand, that, and you may have uploaded a list of objects that you want to buy, and it gives you a route map telling where is what is, and then also gives you all your schemes on your phones. It's like having a physical and a digital experience simultaneously. Now you might, it's thrilling to use such a methodology. However, it is also giving a lot of benefits to the store owner for that matter. A big bazaar or a more might come to know who came in, what were they looking for, what kind of, where did they spend most of the time, what did they eventually buy. It's like a profiling that an Amazon or a Facebook, this Flipkart does for us. You get these push emails telling you what more to buy and all of that, which does not happen with a big bazaar or a more for that matter. So this is what, and you might ask, how is it happening? Now, light is sending out some, let's say, a frequency of light which the front camera of your phone can identify, and your front camera comes to know where you're standing in a store on an indoor space, right? So this changes everything, because it might be a simple application from a lighting perspective, but if it's used properly, can give you a huge amount of data to the retailer to take some supply chain decisions, to their business decisions. They can come to know the demographics of the area, and probably improve the kind of items they want to keep in that store for that matter. A lot of such transformation possible because of lighting. Who could have thought, right? So these are just, I wanted to sum it up again. So indoor navigation, of course, scene management, asset management, energy optimization, I think that goes without saying. The moment your lighting is part of the IT system, interactivity begins automatically. You can conversate with it from your tabs, phones, of course, computer systems, and you can change the lighting, tune it, color it. Suddenly the word is in your hands, right? And of course, wayfinding is the icing on the cake, where you can actually enjoy that experience. I think that changes everything, and you might want to go to a store which gives you a better experience, right? And that's where lighting, of course, apart from it being a tasteful lighting, becomes from an experiential to also very utility based lighting as well, right? Okay, this is another very interesting example. You might see the lady who's in different stores and or changing rooms, and trying to check out the same dress. Okay, look at how much mizzling happens even for the same dress, because how the lighting is put on your in the changing room. Like, it's a very small application, but there is a lot of possibility now, because the trick is that you might want to put the lighting in front of you, because you want to see yourself first of all. Plus, the lighting also helps you with choose the dress for the suitable occasion. So you might want to, and there are, what you see on the screen is 3 choices. You can have 5 choices, you can have 7 choices, where you can check out the dress on yourself for a party, for a out of house party, for a vacation. And it's the basic human centric lighting, but this possibility never existed before. So that's the change interactivity has started bringing in, right? On top of that, parking our spaces, which are normally lit throughout the day, throughout the night, and as a huge waste of technology, waste of energy. I'm sorry. But you also cannot switch them off, because it's about safety and security. You don't want to walk in a dark parking space which is let's say in a basement, right? But there is always this smartness possibility where you have these LED tube lights, very simple stuff, but they have a sensor inside. The moment they have a sensor inside, which probably is a very small innovation, but I think it does bring a huge change in terms of how we use our fully lit, 24-hour lit spaces, where they can sense a certain area, sense movement, and then trigger to switch on the floor or switch on a certain area. Likewise, it's like a bit of intelligence sitting in all of them. You don't have to really put separate sensors, and lights get triggered out separately. But and it's any which way, basements are a very funny space. There's a lot of services going in the ceiling. You can't really keep a track of where to put the sensor and where to put the light. Imagine if the lights already have a sensor inside, and they can take a lot of decisions themselves. Going forward, sports stadia, right? These are some spaces where uh, a lot of us throng to when it comes to all these great seasons of IPL and IHL and a lot of such stuff. Now, these are also spaces which are normally wasted the rest of the time. They don't get used often otherwise. They are normally empty spaces. Imagine if the light could help you use the space for other occasions. It might be used for concert, it might be used for any other public addresses, but because the lighting is designed for a sports situation, it is generally restricted to that. And that's where Interact Sports comes in, and you can change scenes for a so if you some of you follow the NBA, they do have these performances in the middle, and lighting also keeps on changing. So there is a kind of a tweak in terms of what you experience in the breaks, for that matter. But now what I'm saying is, because there is paucity of space, we are a very dense populated country, we might want to use these spaces for multiple purposes. Imagine if the lighting around you can change colors, can change the overall experience. It becomes a theater, for that matter, because it was never, I mean, so we've started doing that. It's across the world, a lot of stadiums across the world, including, you can see the Atletico de Madrid club or the Perth stadium, where you can, of course, as mentioned on the screen, do indoor navigation, because that's about crowd management, scene management, because you want to uh, change the flavor of the space depending on what's happening in the middle. Of course, asset management and lighting management goes without saying, and energy management is also the basic stuff, right? So that's the kind of urban spaces being changed because of that. Industry, very similar to office. I will probably do it a little fast there. So same similar stuff. You can do indoor navigation, you can do asset management, scene management, because you have an IoT lighting system, right? So there's not much to differ from what offices done, but in a different space, because the ceilings are pretty high and you have very different kind of paraphernalia here, right? But it does help you optimize energy usage. It helps for safety of employees, and also productivity scales up happens. uh, very similarly, but little differently, in a hospitality space, when you need to be comfortable, and the the hospitality manager, or the hotel manager doesn't come to know when to disturb you, what do you need. There is, lighting becomes a central infrastructure for you to do that experiencing, where you can communicate about what you need through a lighting management system, which also gives you information about air conditioning. It tells you when you're open your balcony to step outside, save on energy basis, that obviously do environmental monitoring, and it gives you the opportunity to change the lighting depending on what you're doing. If you are trying to sleep and you want dim warm lights, or you want to wake up and do your exercises, you want more cool, bright light, for that matter, which was not the case earlier. And also feeds the information back to the hotel manager, that what is happening and how do you manage such assets, and make people comfortable for that. So it automatically takes over the building management system, and lighting become the central uh, information source, as well as experience source for the guests as well as the hotel manager. You can see there's a welcome scene, there's a reading scene, there's a relaxed scene. So the same space transforms itself because of the lighting, but the furniture, everything remains the same, but your usage, basis your usage, the light recipe can change, right? Now this is very interesting. You would have seen the solar street lights, where you used to have these crazy looking robot type of fixtures, where there used to be this light source, there used to be this solar panel, and there used to be this battery box, which was a pretty much of an eyesore for any urban scenario. So here we want to introduce what is called the all-in-one. Imagine if this small thing that you see the gentleman holding is actually everything. It has the solar panel above, it has the battery inside, and it has, of course, a light, the light sources in the same process. So you see on the screen on the right side, it's actually bundled up of all the great technologies in the same box itself, and it still gives you the solar, right? Because the solar panel efficacy has improved, the battery have in the way batteries have gone smaller and render better efficacy, and of course lighting is definitely very, very effective, very, very energy efficient these days. What you see on the left is also very interesting post op, where we've wrapped around the the solar panels as part of the pole itself. Who could have imagined that happen? So it's still a solar post op, but it uses, I mean, it's a normal post op, but it uses a solar technology. It can be transported wirelessly, it can be used anywhere for that matter. On top of that, what you see below is probably some kind of a mobile app. You can actually monitor all of this remotely. So something goes wrong, at least the manager comes to know what's happening. So it's a real-time information. There's a PIR sensor sitting in most of them to tell you either is it already late, is it an overcast day, basis which when to, because they are wireless, right? You don't have to really reach them to run them, and they take their autonomous decisions, right? And that's where is revolutionizing the energy efficiency and the solar technology per se. Another very defined, a days-defying lighting source, which is a large luminous surface. Who could have imagined lighting sitting as part of the interior system? And this is an acoustic fabric which can become your wall or your ceiling, and content can run on it. So they become like an active wall or an active ceiling. It might engage a person in a hospital while he's lying on board, and it might bring more eyeballs to your office for that matter. It might make your space more attractive. If you see the restaurant on my screen, it has those panels on top of you which continue to change the space. It changes the weather absolutely. Suddenly you can make make people imagine they're sitting underwater or under rain or something, right? Similar to that, there is this it's also a very simple thing to look at, but still a light source which is spread over a huge space, a piece of fabric again, which brings you overcast day kind of lighting, which is glare free, acoustic in nature, uh, and can be used at very interesting spaces. At which point of time I'd like to take a quick break. Would you like to, Prachi, would like to ask any question, and we can then run to the rest of the presentation?
Sure. Yes, thank you so much for the very clear and interesting presentation. I think I really understand what is meant by connected lighting. Um, I had a quick question for you. Like there, I guess what you explained was that there's a communications aspect of lighting. That's what takes it beyond illumination. So when it comes to this Internet of Things integration, could you share the common challenges you have faced as a professional when implementing this?
Okay, I think implementation wise, like I said, we are still we have very few used cases. So it's about the imagination of how and where people want to use such possibilities, right? It's about, I think the whole challenge is in the vision of generally, let's say the consumers in as a general. Because I think as a lighting company, our vision is limited to a technology and the possibilities it can carry. However, how end users are, high profile clients for that matter, can use this to enhance the ROI further. I think that's where we see a lacuna, because of course it's a new, I think we're still breaking few barriers in terms of acceptability with the professionals so far. Similarly, there's a barrier in terms of even practicing architects or consultants to take them up, because I think it goes beyond their brief. They normally have I mean, and I empathize with them, because they normally have very limited time and resources to finish the project, and if they're asked to integrate such possibilities, it needs extra work indeed. So I think there is a bit of acceptance issues, I would say, and the more acceptance it brings, I think the more use cases might pop up, the more affordable it will become, and I think it'll become order of the day. So that's where I see from it becoming a revolution. Is still probably the first barrier that we see so far.
Right, and I think that's very well demonstrated in the fact that you reached 56
Yep.
million installations over a decade. So definitely it's
Yep.
here to stay.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, that's the way to be. The kind of adaptation we ourselves are doing with the mobile devices, the penetration it has brought to different class stratas of the society, and also most of us, if we are big parents, will acknowledge our kids also for that matter. My daughter is having online classes these days. She's in class sixth. So so kind of IoT is coming into our lives is I mean unfathomable actually. Okay, shall I proceed because I have some stuff left to talk about?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's carry on.
Yeah, all right. Okay, quickly. Now we come to the consumer lighting. People like us, all of us sitting at home, most of us are consumers these days, professionals in hiatus. Imagine if your light could help you set your mood. I think most of us are at homes. We might don't want to sit in the same mood throughout the day. Same kind of lighting throughout the day helps us read, energize, concentrate, relax, and do a lot of entertainment for us. It can. So most of us tech savvy people use the Alexa and other voice control mechanism. Imagine if I could tell Alexa to switch on the kitchen light, and you don't have to really become a lazy bum, but I think it's more experiential, if I may say that. So a lot of such things um, are now possible. Cinema experience, as it says. Imagine if whatever's coming on your TV screens gets reflected in the lighting in your room. You don't have to go to a cinema hall. I probably will get killed by PVR people for this. But then if you want to create your own small home theater, all you need is smart lighting to create that overall experience, right? And you see this crazy word called IFTTT on the screen. For the non-geeks, it is if this then that. So you can ask your light to do things. For example, if you get a mail from a certain client or a certain boss, or please turn red, for example. So it's like a visual treat. Okay, oh my God, my boss has mailed me. So some things like these are now happening where you can control the lighting in your personal spaces. This is not just only for homes, but probably some small offices, anything which is of not a large scale but for personal experience. Something you'd like to say? So there are some solutions called Hue. I don't know, most of you would have seen it on the World Cup matches that were coming, were being featured last year. No, Cricket World Cup I meant, where you could, and there are like 800 apps. Can you imagine 800 apps to play with your light? Okay, I mean, you can't have in total our mobiles have like 50, 60 apps. So it's for the geeks. It's for the new world where we have given the APIs. We've kept the APIs open for people to develop anything they want with this app. So it's like more, you want fraternity to come in and play with it for that matter, right? So that's the kind, and it can be scheduled. It can be colors, of course. Changing is the basic possibility, with different usages that people are bringing in, event based, mixed with music, and so on and so forth. So that's the kind of, it's like your slave completely, which is like a genie which can do things, but of course only light for that matter. But it can talk to you, which was never the case earlier, and that's the difference that it has bring in, right? So as you can see, it talks to Alexa, Google Home, IFTTT, well-being, and I mean the apps. People who are really app frenzy, you can try out a lot of things with this. Okay, so it is just left to, like I said, it's the barrier is in our heads, right? It's not with the technology does give you the power in your hand, of course. It just doesn't want you to hurt yourself, but the rest, there's magic wand in your hand, absolutely. So that's the kind of, so you drive closer to your home from proximity, the light switch automatically switches on. You are away. I mean, now that I will not suggest you to go away, but if you are in vacation in the other part of the planet, you can still switch on the lights at 8 p.m. India time for that matter, because you just need to talk through a Wi-Fi, and our lights are on Wi-Fi. Lights are connected all the time. So you're actually letting the thieves go away. No break-ins might happen. So a lot of used cases, as it depends on you how you want to use these possibilities, but the networked lighting has here to stay. Okay, I'll just take you through some very interesting innovations so far. um, Innovations were there, but now these are like really path-breaking ones. I mean, I had to do my research to bring it to you, but then this completely new stuff. Who could have thought horticulture and lighting? Now we do horticulture through lighting. We all have read about greenhouse gases, but that's mostly to do with daylighting, right? Have you ever imagined using artificial light for that? looking at light fidelity. Okay, now what is that? 3D printing, internet through light waves, poleless light. Who could have imagined, right? Weather-based lighting, traffic planning. These are some really interesting value propositions that are, I think it's very interesting. I read that reduce food miles. Okay, so how far your food travels and how fresh it is when it arrives at you, for that matter. So how far do you want it to come from, right? So do you want to eat stale stuff? No. And do you want to make sure that word has enough food? So I think that's where, to begin with, comes the horticultural lighting. So enough research has happened to figure out, in a certain climatic condition, a certain geographical condition, that how do you make these plants grow faster. We want to solve the food problem of the world and make it, of course, available. It should not travel farther, right? It should be healthy. So there are light recipes to make, as it says, lettuce crispier or tomatoes taste sweeter. So we are tampering with nature a little, but I think we have to solve other problems. And light is artificial here. It is not really intrusive. It is still using light, right? But we can make it grow faster. The tulips are being grown in a certain color temperature, a certain color of light. You would have heard, I mean, probably, I'm not confirmed though, but they say that the buffalo give more milk in a certain, when they listen to certain kind of music. Now that's to them, but definitely for plants to grow faster, better, more improved versions might need, you need better lighting or something specific which they need. So enough research has happened before Philips actually got, or Signify got into it as a business. So we are selling this across the world. It does help. So we are pretty much blessed to be in a tropical nation. We have a lot of light, about 9 months a year average. We have sunlight. But for the subtropical or the Arctic nations, or the Nordic nations where they do not get enough sunlight, they still need their food. Now that doesn't mean that only they need to solve the problem. Even in a country like India, that we need to produce more food, and we need to produce it during the night also, for that matter. So why do we have to depend on daytime to grow more? You might want to use the nighttime to also, grow more food for more people. We have a population which is ever increasing, for that matter, right? So this is some very new usage. It is a known usage, but still it is still something we have never thought, as using artificial lighting with a certain recipe to grow faster. So who could have imagined, right? Okay, interesting one. Now imagine using light to access internet. Okay, again, who could have thought that while most of us are using routers and cables to, or for that matter, when you have to use Wi-Fi, we use all those modems and routers to do that. Imagine if the light sources above your head is able to throw internet at you, and at speeds that you could have never imagined. Okay, it's about 100 Mbps, 150 Mbps, although a Wi-Fi gives you 10 Mbps to the max, or 50, or maybe 20 or 250, or no, sorry, or maybe 100 max, right? So that's where so this was actually a TED talk, TED talk, about 5 years back I watched, and today it's a commercial possibility. You can use this in your offices, in a lot of such spaces where so what is happening, radio waves are pretty much crowded. Like most of us have call drops, and if you're using a lot of internet through Wi-Fi, a lot of areas are, you don't get great speeds, and information is not, so for a lot of geeks, it is a pretty much of a disruption. It's like anti-productive. Here comes Li-Fi or light fidelity, where light, which is obviously a free medium, you don't have to, so radio waves, the Airtels and Vodafone of the world have to pay the government. Light, you don't have to pay anyone. It's a free medium, right? And it's safe also. Wi-Fi, when you expose yourself throughout the day, I think you're still harming yourself, slowly, although. But light is a safe medium, right? And you can access. And thirdly, and very importantly, safety. You can never break into a Wi-Fi network, because it is only possible to access wherever the light is. Wherever the light is being spread is there, you can access it from there only. If you're outside the room, no way you can break into that, right? So that's the security aspect of things. A lot of these government security organizations, a lot of the space research, a lot of banking accounts, CEOs, CTOs who don't want any break-ins from hacking perspective to happen, it's a wonderful solution, and that's the way things would be, believe you me. On the right side, you will see it's amazing possibility again, where inter machines communication can happen. These are actually being already started being used in an Audi factory, where from one machine to the other, if you have to, and most of these are automated factories, one machine tells the other what process I finished, you start the next process. You can do it through Li-Fi. The signal is sent wirelessly, faster and more certain, because there is a certain light that is visible and you can see that light is coming. So, innovative, that's where again I was mentioning, Prachi, that it's the barrier is in our heads, right? How do you want to use these possibilities? Just started using them. So that's the new possibility that is there. Oh, you could have imagined using it on the on a movement, on in a flight for that matter. And you would have heard in-flight entertainment coming in India with Vistara and many other across the globe. We have started working with Air France to doing what you see here, because Li-Fi is pretty light. You don't need anything. You don't need any cables, so it doesn't add to the load on the aircraft, but it gives you great experience to the traveler, right? And something you wouldn't want. So if in a, for example, in a hotel, you prefer a hotel with a better Wi-Fi, you prefer an airline with a better internet connection for that matter, and that's the way things are going to be, right? So that's another great change that is happening. Interestingly, this is one of the most interesting thing I've also understood recently. Now, poles in our cities are like an ugly lot. Okay, they are everywhere. You see all of these, and when you see all these, towers which are helping us connect to all of these network, they are like these huge poles or huge, steel structure that's standing in middle of the housing societies and whatnot, an urban eyesore, and still they do not give great connection. So what is the solution? You do need lighting, which is anywhere there, but you also need connections, and you need to be safe, and you need to have a lot of other possibilities. That's where we sort of bundled this in a very interesting way, that let's say each light pole becomes a responder, or a, let's say an accentuator of these, let's say an Airtel or a Vodafone. When you're near a pole, or you don't need a huge pole where you do still get shadows of connections. Let's say this light pole becomes your accentuator for a lot of these mobile connections, and also gives you Wi-Fi, and also gives you safety options, also gives you a screen for advertisement for that matter. So a lot of this, and you can also talk about, so energy efficiency goes without saying. You can manage this asset across the city. It also integrates a camera for that matter, a 360-degree camera, which will also feed information to the smart city, let's say control room, right? It is good to look at. It is something very smart. It might also have charging points for mobiles. It can also be used to, let's say, a lot of use cases are there. It also has these sensors for, climate, conditions for that matter, SO2, CO2, all these kind of PM 2.5, PM 10. These kind of sensors are also pre-fitted. So this whole pole is like an amalgamation of a lot of urban level facilities which you might need, and we are still developing. So it's of course it has started being applied across the world, but like I said, it depends on the feedback that most of the users give, most of the city councils give, uh, that how can we make it more usable, and they are good looking, goes without saying, right? So this is called bright sites. We are introducing this in India as well, while this is already starting getting used in many countries abroad. uh, as you can see on your screen, there is a lot of cell radios in the system. There is a fiber optic connection, there are sensors, there's a camera, there's a Wi-Fi antenna, there's an air outlet because a lot of heat will get generated. It'll have a telecom antenna inside, and also have a luminaire. So there is lighting as well. We're not saying it is an IT pole. It is also a lighting pole which houses a lot of things. It's like a robot in front of you, but still looks good. And you can change a lot of lighting types. So it becomes like a bundled services for us across the city, across the campuses, with a lot of opportunities to add. Right, it's not the end. What we see here is whatever we have developed so far on our own, uh, with feedback, with requirements. It's not something that is the end of the world. A lot of new possibilities are going to come up. So uh, of course it also has noise sensing. I forgot completely. It also has a screen. So when you have to advertise, it sets you a clean screen. You can have to use it in public address systems. um, I think I'm sure running short of possibility. There are a lot of them which are still possible, and maybe next time when you ask for it. Okay, now this is a very interesting one, which is 3D printing of luminaires. Now, till now, you were only sufficing with whatever you could get a company like Philips would give you or any other company might give you. You only had that much. But now it's possible to 3D print what you like. Okay, so that's the new line of business we are investing into. Where, and by the way, it is 100% recyclable polycarbonate. So even if it gets used out, we just again melt it and reuse it again. So there's like totally democratization of luminaires, which is about to happen. It's like a full revolution in terms of, so it's like a digital path from design to redesign. So you can, and by the way, there's a website, please Google and find out. You can choose your material, you can add your texture. It's like a DIY for yourself, and you can get, when you are you're done with your decisions, it also gives you specifications of what you might get, and then you can order it likewise. So you can recycle it. Of course, we will recycle it for you. So these are some possibilities which never existed. So this is another beyond illumination, where it's just not talking about light only, but how it is produced and how can you influence and add to reducing the carbon footprint. When you buy a new light, you might want to use the light which has been used before, or light source for that matter, right? This is one of my last slides. Sorry, I've run out of time also, but some interesting stuff where you can push, you can do and print on the surfaces with light. You can actually bring flavor to urban spaces. These are called gogo projections. We have been using few of them across few cities in India, where urban spaces can be rejuvenated by, while they're giving lighting, they're also giving a flavor to the space. So you can be used for public messaging, can be used for advertising without really putting those ugly hoardings across the city, and still give light. So it's adding value to your spaces. And on the right, you see some very interesting stuff. It's called the free street, which is again a very path breaking stuff, where we are saying we are freeing the street of the poles. We don't like poles anymore, right? You give it to the hawkers, you give it to the pedestrians, you bring it for more people to come together. Not in these days, of course, but still, it frees the street. It gives you more right of way. The ROW gets better, right? So there are some small innovations which are path breaking in the way they are, right? And gives you interesting value propositions beyond just lighting. Most of them lived. So I never talked about the quality of light or quantity of light or any such technical aspects. How it is changing our world, and how we have to change along, and how we can find new usages and adapt to this new world, is where I would like to end. So light is like fire, a good servant but a poor master. It behooves anyone who is involved in the design and specification of lighting systems to be aware of the impacts of light on human health. End of the day, it's about us, human beings, right? So here I'd like to end, and thank you so much for attention. Sorry for shooting over time. Over to you, Prachi and Deepa.
Thank you so much. That was such a comprehensive insight into the whole world of digital lighting and where it's headed. And I think you really took us to the whole gamut of the applications and the possibilities. And we have quite a few questions coming in, so let's just take them up. Let me read them out. So
Okay,
the
thank you.
first question is, which type of sensing technology is best for controlling light and dimming based on occupancy?
I'm sorry, repeat that again.
Sure, sure.
Sorry, I missed.
So, yeah, the question is, which type of sensing technology is best for controlling light and dimming based on occupancy?
Right. So sensors of various kinds. So I am not too sure which application is being asked for, because it will vary from whether it's being used in a city or an industry or an office. Even offices, we normally use the PIR sensors, which is primarily used for such sensing. Although there are various other technologies which are there to make sure the reach is better and you're able to cover more area. The strength and the technology varies depending on usage. When it is using the higher ceiling, you need more than IR. I am not also too sure in terms of the exact technology, but there are some technologies to take up that level as well. I'm sorry, I'm not a best of experts around here, but I just wanted to introduce a lot of things. But yes, if you can connect with me separately, I can help you with specific application wise solution.
Sure, sure. So moving on, the next question is, what can be expected from LED in the coming decade in terms of the efficacy and technology?
Okay. See, LEDs per se. So when the LEDs came in, the whole story was energy efficiency, as you recall, longevity, no mercury. So very eco-friendly for that matter. Going forward, and I think I mostly took it up. The entire presentation was about that. That so far the energy aspect or the eco-friendly part of aspect has already been taken care. Now and I already had mentioned, energy is one of the smallest sort of return on investment to what this technology gives in. The connected lighting and human centric lighting is actually about the fact that you can control and use it to your usage. That was never the case earlier. The part of personalization and improve productivity and using light for internet transmission for that matter, and various other such possibilities. So the size of LED is getting smaller and smaller. The efficacy is only improving by the day, but efficacy, uh, I might also mention here, the more efficacy, the more the brightness. The more the brightness, the more the glare. Now glare is not good for human health, so we got to also tap it. So you cannot run let's say truck in inside a housing society. You don't need that heavy an instrument because the usage is limited, right? So you got to figure out, you have to be sensible enough to what to use where, right? And so efficacies will definitely improve, no denial. Of course, energy component will not go zero, but it definitely will be that your efficacies will improve, your lighting power density, the LPD will definitely get lower and lower with time. uh, it is anyway was anyway the lower contributor to a building space. Of course, first being air conditioning, the percentage has only gone down. Earlier it used to be 15%. Now I think it's gone down to even less than 10% to the contribution to building, energy usage in a building. So going forward, IoT, personalization, productivity increase. Of course, the technology aspects of efficacy and all will definitely improve. Better color rendering will come up. More glare control should come up. More human control will come up, right? More interactive it will come up, right? And most of what I mentioned already, I think. So goes without saying, the future is upon us. Actually, we're at a tipping point actually where we decide what happens next.
Right, right. There's a question on this lines as well, continuing this. So the question is, providing dynamic light with dynamic illuminance, CCT and CRI are a great start, but what
Mhm.
about visual comfort consideration?
Very good.
Is there any
Good question.
advancement in that domain?
Yeah, good question. So I forgot to mention in the speed of things that when I was talking about human-centric lighting, there have been some green and wellness rating systems which have come to our rescue actually. So the lead system and the well system, these are some checks that most of us have when it comes to human comfort, right? Whether the comfort in this case is visual, but on other aspects as well. So while one of them takes care of the energy aspect of thing, the other one looks at human well-being and productivity. So yes, color temperature variations is also an output of that process where you see most of us, and like I already said, we are a tropical country. If I ask you to peep outside your window and tell me the time, you might be erring about 15-20 minutes here and there, but you will definitely give, because our biological rhythm is according to we are a tropical country, so our life cycle runs around that actually, right? So we do experience this variation in daylight. However, in the indoor spaces, we do not get that opportunity, right? And also at times when you really want to soothe yourself and relax, you sometimes the light which is glaringly into your eyes is cool and bright, whereas you need warm and low, for the example, right? So the idea is that human comfort is inbuilt into these systems. Plus, of course, like I already mentioned, glare control, and a very new possibility which Well has started measuring is called equivalent melanopic lux, which is primarily vertical illumination with a correlation to color temperature that it has. So you need to, I think it probably needs another session uh, where we can elaborate on this bit, but then definitely that's what I mentioned was a byproduct of this whole process of human comfort or visual comfort.
Right. The next question talks about the security on these systems. I think you did touch upon it, but
Mhm.
like, could you explain if hacking could be a concern in these systems?
Right. So I was talking about Wi-Fi per se, where so normally in a Wi-Fi system, most of us now are sitting at home. When I open my Wi-Fi, I'm actually getting a Wi-Fi. Of course, I can't go into theirs, but a whole lot of people are using Wi-Fi to use in their homes, for that matter. Now, okay, this is residential usage, but if it were a highly sensitive information being used in the next building, if I did not have good intentions and I'm a geeky fellow, I might just break into that, use their Wi-Fi from the internet perspective, but use also steal a lot of information. A lot of hacking results in money, fund siphonage and whatnot from your own account, for that matter. So Wi-Fi brings you that possibility of, again, great speeds, but also safety, because within the confines of the wall, wherever the light source is throwing that light is where you will get internet. Rest is out of bound. Nobody outside that room can hack into that internet system, right? So that's the power that, or that's the opportunity Wi-Fi gives you. So high speed in a confined area, right, which is safe for your body, mhm, is something is Wi-Fi is about to offer.
Right, right. I think we have time for just a couple of last questions. So,
Okay.
very quickly, this question is about whether IoT lighting can be a mode of communication for third-party IoTs.
Very okay. Yes. So I think you talk about integration with other IoT systems. I think this is what I understand from the question. Yes, indeed. I
Right.
think most of the companies, which are looking at the future, whether it is air conditioning, whether it is, smart washing machines or smart refrigerators, smart TVs, the interactivity has already started happening. Now, if Amazon Alexa can talk to most of these, lights can. They've also started talking to the lighting. So I think convergence is bound to happen. You cannot win this alone, right? If change has to happen, the customer or the consumer does not want partial experience, they want full experience. So I think the integration is something you will see going forward. Most of us are in silos. We are trying to so far, I mean, I'm not saying this is the end of the world, but artificial intelligence and IoT are the way things are going to be very soon, right? So I think the whole barrier so far is the fact that most of these are beyond bound because of the commercial part. I think when it becomes more common and more integration will happen, the barriers will break, and probably all of us will be talking to each other again. So communication will begin, and somewhere convergence will also happen. But mind you, the most of the platforms that we are talking about so far within Signify are pretty much open protocols. They're not confined or are Philips only protocols, which means they can talk to other systems as well, and they can be integrated with other security systems or communication systems very clearly.
Right. And for the last question, this is about solar PV. So I'll just club two questions about that.
Sure.
This is how much electricity can be generated by light poles with solar PV? And
Mhm.
the other question is, what's the latest update on solar lighting into retail? Are there any breakthroughs there?
Into retail, okay. So on the amount of uh, energy being produced, like, I mean, so I'm not an expert again on solar part, but I can give you, so my understanding from the solar experts in our team is that, if you can imagine, you remember that box that I had shown, that light, that this light would have been uh 20-watt product, if I remember correctly, and now we are releasing a 50-watt product soon. So imagine a 50-watt being generated from as much a street light surface might offer, for example, right? 60-watt is a decent number for such a small place, with a small battery sitting inside, as if it was a torch battery or something, right? That's the kind of battery, because the efficacy of uh, the this PV cell has improved. So smaller area is required to generate more, and also the LED technology. So the efficacy at which the LED runs is about 175 lumen per watt. So that's a huge ROI, return on investment for. Plus, of course, when you have such small, better efficacy and much more productivity in terms of wattages or energy, the battery required is also small, right? And it does give you 2-3 days of autonomy, which means even if there is no sunlight for 2 or 3 days, it will still run with, of course, the intelligence of a PIR sensor sitting inside to tell whether it's a daytime or a nighttime. So, at the moment there is dawn, it automatically switches itself off. So, it's already also smart luminaire. Now, my point is that efficacy is definitely very good in terms of numbers. I don't want to comment because I'm not an expert, uh, but definitely improved. This is a showcase that what it used to be, what it is now, tremendous improvement, right? And it is only getting further. So I might want you to, connect. I can help you to connect with a solar expert to give you a better number, provided you connect with me later. On the indoor usage of solar, yes, I think so. That has already been the case. All that has to happen is transmission. I think that's the so you do most of the rooftop solar uh, vendors are already across India, and I think government is helping to subsidize and make use of it more often than not. So I think in retail specifically, or any indoor usage for that matter, all you need to see is how much. Although we would still recommend hybrid usage, which means you should also tap solar as well as normal power, that you might get from the city or any other grid for that matter. And most of the time, and I think both of you will also confirm that you can feed that whatever you produce into the grid, and you can actually get the similar or better units from the grid directly for that matter. So it's like a barter system that you can get, that you contribute to the city energy system. See, the issue is that energy transmission is where most of the losses happen, and to transmit you need to convert it to AC. It is a DC produce actually. So the moment you put it in AC, the losses also and the amount of distance it travels, the loss gets, and when it has to convert back to DC, so a lot of transmission losses happen in heat and transmission and everything. So which is why indoor usage is definitely being promoted, because within the same building you can actually transmit, and losses are less, and that product line already exists. So it's not something which is alien today.
Right. We have many more questions, but I think I'll just mail them across to you and then share the answers back.
Please do, definitely.
Let's draw the Q&A to an end now. And thank you so much, Mr. Behl. That was a great session overall. I think I had many insights from it. Just a few important announcements. This week, we are running the NZEB quiz on lighting. This is a fun picture quiz to test your lighting fundamentals, and the link will be sent on your chat box now. Then the next webinar in the series is on 8th April. It's going to be on accessible and affordable greenhousing. Mr. Monu Ratra, who's the director and the CEO at IIFL Home Finance Limited, is going to be our expert speaker. He spearheads initiatives to promote sustainability in the affordable housing sector. So this is going to throw up a lot of interesting insights for architects, consultants, and developers. So do tune in. This month's NZEB newsletter will be out shortly. It's going to be full of updates, news, and also many learning resources so that you can achieve net zero in your project. You can also view all our previous webinars on the NZEB India YouTube channel. There's a wealth of information there on design, tech, policy, and skills for NZEBs. So do check it out. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the NZEB portal. This is your one-stop shop for everything NZEB. You'll find case studies, helpful tools, learning resources, and a lot more for your projects. And so that was today's session. I hope you had a great learning experience. A recording of this video will be uploaded for everyone to see very soon. Thank you everyone for dialing in today.